When I first started meditating, I could never get past the first 10 to 15 minutes because of my mind, because of my thoughts. The more I would try to become quiet, the more I would try to become still, the more my mind would become active. And I would have all these distracting and random thoughts of the past and of the future. And I just couldn't get into those deeper meditative states. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't experience what I wanted to experience in the meditation. And so after trying over and over and over again to meditate and to experience oneness with God, samadhi, satori, what I was reading about in all these different ancient spiritual texts of these ancient mystics and sages and yogis and saints, what they were experiencing in meditation, once I realized that this was not possible for me and that, it seemed like for me meditation was a complete waste of time, I said to hell with this, and I set it aside, and I just gave up on it. And I said, I guess I'll have to find some other spiritual practice, some other method, some other modality. And so I did. And I didn't really search for another practice because I just kind of lost interest, and I didn't know what to do from this point on. But throughout that whole time, which was, I don't know, maybe a few months, I don't remember exactly how long it was, but during that time, I felt this, call it an intuition, call it an inner knowing, but something was tugging on my heart to return to meditation, to give it another try. Now, something I was doing during this time was I was trying to study more about meditation because I thought, maybe the reason I can't meditate is because I'm approaching it wrong. Maybe I have some misconceptions. Maybe I have some preconceived notions that I need to let go of before I can actually start meditating correctly. And this was a big part of it, And so when I started reading different books on meditation and I started reading about some of the mystics and the saints and the sages that would talk about meditation all the time, and they would talk about how meditation is their main method. It's how they experience transcendence, and it's how they dissolve the ego and experience oneness with God, or samadhi, satori, whatever you want to call it. I would read it. I would read all of this, and it was very encouraging. It was very inspiring. And my whole thing was I couldn't get to that level. I couldn't experience what they were experiencing because I was caught up. I was trapped in the early beginning stages of the meditation. And again, what was keeping me trapped? What was keeping me stuck? It was my mind. I just could not, I don't know, it was too distracting. And I just felt like after trying to meditate for 15 or 20 minutes and not experiencing what I wanted to experience, I felt like I was wasting my time. I felt like this was pointless. I felt like nothing was happening, and I felt like I could be doing something much better with my time. So, it was all that stuff. But again, reading the mystics and reading some of the other teachers and saints like I had mentioned, what I learned from them was that there were definitely some misconceptions that I had about meditation that was preventing me from going deeper and experiencing the states of transcendence and the higher states of consciousness that they were experiencing. So that was definitely a major component to it. And I actually made a whole video on this about the three main misconceptions I had, and then how I set meditation aside. I started studying the mystics, those who were, experts on meditation and who were experiencing what I wanted to experience. And so I talk about how I set meditation aside. I started studying all of their stuff. Then I started applying what they were saying to my meditation. And when I did that, then the misconceptions I had went out the window. And that's when I started to experience success, we could say, in meditation. And I started to enter into those deeper meditative states rather quickly and very efficiently. But that's not what I want to talk about today. And like I said, I made a whole video on that. So if you haven't seen that video yet, I'll put the link to that video in the description below, so you can go back and watch that video after you finish watching this one. But today what I want to talk about is one of the things I learned when I was taking a break from meditation was that my whole approach to meditation was off. And so, forget about the misconceptions I had about it while I was meditating, and these misconceptions were actually preventing me from experiencing the deeper states. But forget about that because that's something different. What I'm talking about today is something that actually comes before the meditation. And this is something I learned. And so what I learned was that I was approaching meditation completely wrong. I was starting from a place that was, setting me up for failure, we could say. It was setting me up for discouragement. It was setting me up for, meditating, like I said, for 15 or 20 minutes and then reaching a place of, oh, this is pointless, this is boring, nothing's happening, I'm wasting my time. And what I mean by this is and I can honestly say that I don't think I heard this from any kind of spiritual teacher or any kind of mystic or saint that I was reading about. This was something that I felt as though it was inherent wisdom. It was knowledge that was just coming from within me. So we could call it intuitive knowledge. And when I was thinking about, all the different things I've done in my life as far as like hobbies and things I've been interested in growing up, I grew up playing sports. I played soccer, basketball, football, and then I went through a season after high school of working out, loving the gym, making gains in bodybuilding, and I wanted to be in a bodybuilding show at one point, and I was into all that. And what I noticed, what I realized was that all throughout my life, let's just say playing sports, which I started when I was like 3 years old playing soccer, and then I started playing basketball when I was in middle school and then football. But playing sports, it was like, when I would play, let's just say soccer, when I was playing soccer, I would show up to the field normally an hour before the game started. And of course I was practicing all throughout the week, but I would show up to the game about an hour before the event started, and I would prepare myself. I would warm up. And this consisted of running laps and doing drills and exercises. And the whole point of this was to prepare the body for what was about to happen, for the actual event, for the game. And this was necessary for the mind-body connection, for the muscle memory, for all the stuff to be in alignment for the game. And so the idea of just showing up to the game after laying around the house all day, or after, watching TV, or after doing nothing, the idea of just showing up to the game, getting out of my car and walking onto the field and starting the game was insane. I would have never done that. Why? Because my body was not ready. It was not prepared for what it was about to experience. Okay? And so same thing with basketball or football. I would never just show up to the field, show up to the gym and just be like, all right, let's go. It's time to get in the game. No, I had to go through a time period of preparation, of warm up, so that the body, so that the mind was ready to take on whatever would happen during the actual event, during the game. Same thing with working out. When I was in the gym and I was trying to make gains and I was trying to be a bodybuilder, there was actually a time where I was pretty close to signing up for a bodybuilding competition. Anyways, I'd go in there and so just think about it. If I would have went into the gym and if I would have went straight to the bench press and if I would have just loaded up the bench with, 225 or 315, and I would have thought that, okay, I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to start lifting. I'm ready to start the workout. I would have probably seriously injured myself because why? The body wasn't ready. The body was not prepared for that amount of weight, for that amount of load and stress. And so what did I have to do? Well, I would show up. If I wanted to work out at, let's say, 5 o'clock, I would show up at 4:30 and I would warm up for 30 minutes. And that consisted of stretching. And then I would go through all the movements and I would start off with really light weight. I'd put on a 10 and then maybe a 25 and then a 45. And I would just slowly work my way up to my max weight, to what I wanted to do working sets with. I would have never gone into the gym and just put on the weight that I wanted to do my actual working sets with and use that to be my first rep. That would have been ridiculous. That would have been insane. And like I said, I probably would have been seriously injured, And so, no, I went in there and I prepared. I warmed up and I made sure everything was firing. I made sure everything felt good. I made sure that there was that mind-body connection. The muscle memory was kicking in. And then I would slowly progress to putting on the weight that I was going to use for the working sets. And so when I started thinking about all that, what I noticed was with meditation, I was trying to go straight into meditation from being in the beta brainwave state, from being in the analytical thinking mind all day, coming from work, coming from whatever I was doing. And I was just expecting to, have a successful meditation just from starting cold turkey out of nowhere from this beta brainwave state. And so I was like, well, wait a second. What if what I am missing with meditation is I'm not preparing myself for the meditation. I'm not warming up. I'm not taking the time to get ready, to get into the zone. When I was playing basketball, I would warm up and I would try to get into the zone before I would start playing. And so same thing with meditation. It was like, why in the world, or just the thought of starting it from no preparation, where the whole point of meditation is to shift from the head space to the heart space. So that is movement. That is, we could say it's an exercise. We could say that is something that the body is doing, that the body has to be prepared for. So again, the thought of going into it just completely in the state of mind, in the state of consciousness of being in beta and being in the analytical thinking mind, and expecting to just have this quick shift into the heart space, into alpha or into theta, where we can then experience all this amazing stuff, is ridiculous, because it just doesn't work like that for anything in life, really. There has to be some kind of preparation. There has to be some kind of warm-up, some kind of event, some kind of progression that precedes the main event, that precedes the game or the workout or the show or the meditation, whatever it is. And so this was so important for me, because when I started preparing myself, when I started warming up before my meditation, that is when everything changed for me in my meditation journey. That is when I actually started to experience what I wanted to experience in my meditation. That is when I was able to start shifting from the beta brainwave state to alpha pretty quickly, and then into theta, where I could really start to transcend the sense of being a separate self. That's where I started to experience healing and nervous system recalibration and unity consciousness, oneness with everything, and then samadhi, and all these amazing things that we read about with the mystics and the saints and the sages and the yogis, where they talk about all these things that they're experiencing in meditation. This all started to happen for me when I started to warm up for the main event, before the game, before meditation. Now, what does warming up for meditation look like? Well, think about it like this. Meditation, like I said, I think the whole point of it is to shift from the head space, the analytical thinking mind, to the heart space. And once we're in the heart space, that's when the magic happens. That's when we start to experience what we want to experience. And then being in the heart space is what ultimately leads to a transformed life. And so you walk away from the meditation transformed, and you start living from being instead of from doing. You start living from love instead of from fear. And that's what ultimately all of us are wanting to experience. For those of us who are wanting to meditate, that's kind of the main point, is to have some kind of inner transformation where we experience oneness with God, we experience that inherent peace and wisdom that's within all of us, but then it starts to manifest in our external world, in our lives. That's what we're all wanting for the most part, most of us. And so anyways, so preparation, so warming up for meditation for me, consisted of really two main things, okay? So the first thing was this. I knew that in order for me to, well, before I say that, let me say this. Meditation, like I said, is shifting from the head space to the heart space. But what was happening to me was that when I was really trying to meditate and I was really trying to experience those deeper meditative states, I was getting close. I was getting close to the heart space, but then I could never break through. And this was happening, like I said, around the 15 to 20 minute mark for me. There would be times where I would get really close. I was starting to still the mind. I could feel my heart. I could feel myself start to enter into the heart space, but then it just wouldn't happen. And the reason for this, and I learned this later on, was because my heart wasn't open. So there was a blockage going on energetically. And so I would start to make that shift, but the heart wasn't open. And so I could not fully enter into the heart space. And so the key is we have to open the heart before we start meditating. We have to start allowing the energy in the heart space to flow. And so think of it as like gates. There's gates of the heart. And so you can start making that shift. You can start to go from the head space, from the busyness of the mind, to the inner stillness, to the peace of the heart. But if the heart's not open, forget about it. You're not going to experience the heart space, and you're not going to experience what you want to experience beyond that in meditation. You won't enter into that state of transcendence. And so for me, I had to figure out, okay, what was going to open my heart so that my heart was ready and prepared, again, warmed up. It was ready for the main event before I even started meditating. And for me, it was two main things. The first one was, the first thing I used to open my heart was music. And I've made videos about this as well. But for me, it was music. Music has always been something that I have connected with. I've loved different types of music, different genres, and I grew up in a musical family. I'm a musician. I play the drums. My mom has owned a dance school for many years, like 20, 25 years, something like that. So I've been around music, I've been around dance, and it's just always been something that I resonate with. And like I said, I just have an easy time connecting with it. And for me, I know that there are certain songs, there's certain singers, there's certain bands that when I'm listening to them, I can start to make that shift. I go from my headspace where I'm so stressed out and I'm experiencing all this anxiety and fear and worry. And all of a sudden I hear this song, or I hear this singer hit the high note, or it's a certain part of the song, or whatever it is, certain instrument. When this comes on, it's like everything changes for me. It's like I enter into a different world and I start to experience this serene peace and inner stillness and bliss, and all my cares start to kind of melt away, and I start to feel love, and I start to feel like this oneness with everything. And typically it starts with a tear, or maybe I start laughing because it reminds me of something, it brings up a memory. But the music is acting as a method, as a modality for opening the heart. And so music is a fantastic way to open the heart and to prepare oneself for what meditation ultimately brings us into. And so you have to figure out if music is something that works for you, if you feel like you have a connection with music, if you feel like you have certain songs that really open your heart, then don't ignore that. That is for a reason. And so what you can try to do is, before, let's say you're planning on meditating, and maybe you're planning on meditating at 6:30 in the morning. What you would do is at 6, so 30 minutes before you start meditating, you start listening to music. Or it doesn't have to be 30 minutes before, it can be whatever, 15 minutes before. But you start listening to that one song, that one artist that really, like I said, just touches your heart. And forget about the lyrics. I mean, the lyrics can be important in this process, but they don't have to be important, because it's not really about the words. It's about the energy, it's about the vibration and the frequency that's behind the words, that's coming from the person singing or the band or whatever it is. And so again, really sit with that, feel it out, and just discover what works best for you. Discover what touches your heart in a very unique way. Again, maybe it's something that reminds you of something in the past, a joyful memory, a person, a loved one, an experience, whatever it is. Use it as a method. It's not the main thing. It's not the primary object. It's just something you're using to make that shift. It's something that you're using to open the heart, and you'll start to feel it. It'll be not so much a thought, not so much, an idea, a concept, something that's intellectual. It's going to be something that you feel energetically in your body, and you're going to feel your heart start to open up. And one of the main indicators of this is you'll feel like your thoughts will start to decrease, and so your mind will start to become still, and you'll start to feel more. Instead of think, you're going to start to feel more, and you'll feel that peace start to arise. You'll feel love, joy, laughter, and typically this is paired with tears, and it can be a really beautiful experience. And so again, music is one of the main things I'll use as preparation for opening my heart, so that when I start meditating and I start making that shift from the headspace to my heart space, the heart's open and we're ready to go. The game is ready to be played and the show is ready to begin. Okay. The second thing, which lately in my life, this has been what I've been using more because of whatever reason, but it's poetry. So reading poetry, or it doesn't have to be poetry, it can be something from maybe an ancient spiritual text, a verse, a passage, something from the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads is for me what has been very helpful and very transformative. And so I'll just read a passage or a verse, or like I said, poetry, something from Rumi, and I'll just sit with it and I'll read it over and over again. And I feel that shift. I feel like the poetry, the poem, something in it, there's something so spiritual about it. And there's something very intentional about most poetry and so many of the ancient spiritual texts that when you read it, it's almost like they were written in a way that's designed to open your heart. And you can feel this. This is not just an idea. This is something that you can feel when you're reading some of these ancient writings and poetry. And so again, don't ignore that. Don't just think, oh, this is nothing, or it's just me, or it's just my emotions. No, really sit with that and surrender to it. Allow it to open your heart. Allow it to cause certain emotions to arise, and make sure you're really feeling those emotions. You're embodying those emotions, because as you feel these different emotions that are arising from the poetry, from the music, this is important, because as you feel it, you're going to heal it, and this is going to cause the energy to flow in your heart space, and this is going to open the heart. This is going to allow for you to easily enter into the heart space when you start to shift during the meditation. Okay, so these are the two main things for me, music and poetry. But if there's something else that works for you as far as opening the heart, sometimes it's something as simple as looking at artwork, looking at a painting or something. It can be a lot of different things. And so here's the thing about meditation. It's in the spiritual journey in and of itself. It's a very unique thing. It's something that is going to look different for each person. And this is something that I think doesn't get talked about enough. But you'll know, and that's why it's so important to really get in touch with your own intuitive heart. Your heart is trying to lead you. Your heart's trying to speak to you. But we have to move past the mind and all these different thoughts and distractions of the ego that keep us from the inherent peace and the intuitive wisdom and guidance that we all have within the depths of our being. Okay, so meditation will absolutely transform your life. It certainly has for me, and there's so much to say about it, but I think for today that's it. That's the main thing I wanted to just kind of talk about, and I think that many of you will find this helpful. And if this is something that you've been doing, please share your story in the comment section below, because this is something that other people need to hear. I know that, like for example, if a couple of years ago, if I would have been on YouTube and if I would have been watching videos and trying to learn about different techniques and different methods on how to really advance in meditation, I would have been wanting to hear other stories from other people who have experienced what I was wanting to experience at the time. And so our stories and our testimonies are so important. And like I said, we're a community, we're all one, and we're all growing together. I love that quote from Ram Dass. He says, we're all just walking each other home. And so, again, our stories are very important, they're very meaningful, and they're for those around us. So please, in the comment section below, if you have experienced any breakthrough in your meditation practice, especially from this idea that I'm bringing up today with having some kind of preparation, some kind of warm-up before the meditation, please mention that. Please share that down below in the comment section, okay? And if you found this video helpful, informative, or insightful, please leave a thumbs up at the bottom of the screen. And be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.